Would you believe it? 95 million people. That's not the audience for the World Cup final. Nor is it the number of people watching a presidential inauguration. That is the number of Americans glued to their TV screens, abandoning their dinners, to watch a live broadcast of a white car, fleeing from police at a snail's pace. Sitting in that car, holding a gun to his own head, was a man America worshipped as a saint. They called him the Juice, a football superstar, a handsome Hollywood actor, a symbol of the American dream. But just days before this insane pursuit, that hero became the prime suspect in one of the most brutal double homicides in Los Angeles history. 2 bodies left in a pool of blood. A woman with her throat cut so deep she was nearly decapitated. A case that had it all: money, fame, race, and betrayal. Today, we're not talking about an ordinary murder case. We are going to dissect the trial of the century, the O.J. Simpson case. Why, with a mountain of DNA evidence clear as day, was he found not guilty? Did that famous glove really not fit? Or was it a perfect charade? And most importantly, what actually happened on that fateful night? To understand the horror of this case, we must start where it happened. Brentwood, Los Angeles. An enclave for the elite, home to movie stars and millionaires. A place where safety was taken for granted, and street crime was a foreign concept. Sunday night, June 12, 1994. The weather was cool, the air eerily quiet. At 875 South Bundy Drive, Nicole Brown Simpson, O.J.'s ex-wife, had just returned from dinner and put her children to bed. Everything seemed peaceful. Until the sound of a dog barking tore through the night. Around 10:15 p.m. Neighbors began to hear barking. Not a normal bark, but a wailing, persistent cry, as if the animal was witnessing something truly terrifying. That was Cato, Nicole's loyal Akita. Around 11 p.m., a neighbor named Stephen Schwab found the dog wandering alone on the street, its paws covered in fresh blood. The dog was trembling, panicked, and kept pulling Stephen towards 875 South Bundy. Taking it as a bad omen, Stephen and another couple decided to follow the dog. 12:10 a.m., June 13th. Under the dim streetlights, the scene before them looked more like a horror movie than reality. Right at the gate, Nicole Brown lay collapsed in a fetal position, her black dress disheveled, surrounded by a massive pool of coagulating blood. She had been brutally attacked with multiple stab wounds to her neck and head. A few meters away, hidden behind some bushes, was the body of a young man, Ron Goldman. He lay there, eyes wide open, covered in defensive wounds. The air was thick with the metallic smell of blood. No signs of robbery. The killer didn't come for money. He came to kill, and he killed with pure, unadulterated rage. The LAPD arrived immediately. During the investigation, they found a crucial piece of evidence right next to Ron Goldman's body: a dark leather glove, size XL, for the left hand. So, where was the right one? Immediately, suspicion fell on one person: the ex-husband with a history of domestic violence, the man Nicole had just rejected. Police immediately headed to O.J. Simpson's mansion, just a 5-minute drive away. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to ignite a media firestorm that would shake America to its core. Before becoming a murder suspect, O.J. Simpson wasn't just an athlete. He was a god. Rising from the projects, O.J. used his legs to run straight into America's heart. He shattered records and became the face of major corporations. In the 70s and 80s, O.J. Simpson was the living definition of the American dream. He was the black man most loved by white America. A $1 million smile. In 1977, at a posh Beverly Hills nightclub, the god met his muse, Nicole Brown. She was only 18, a radiant blonde waitress, O.J. was 30, at the peak of his fame, and already married. O.J. was instantly captivated. He bombarded her with expensive gifts, sweet words, and luxury trips. How could an 18-year-old girl resist the charm of America's #1 superstar? They married in 1985. On the outside, it was a fairy tale. But inside the gates of the Rockingham estate, it was a gilded cage stained with violence. O.J. viewed Nicole as his property. He was pathologically jealous. He forbade her from seeing friends, controlled how she dressed. And then the slaps began. Slaps turned into life-threatening beatings. But after every assault, O.J. would kneel and apologize, buy her a new car, and Nicole would forgive him. The tipping point was New Year's Eve, 1989. Nicole called 911 in a panic, screaming, "He's going to kill me!" When police arrived, they found Nicole hiding in the bushes, clothes torn, face bruised. She screamed at the officers, "You never do anything. You've been out here 8 times and you just talked to him." And she was right, because it was O.J. Simpson. Police would arrive. O.J. would just smile, invite them in to see his trophies, sign a few autographs, and they would leave. Fame had become a shield for the monster. In 1992, Nicole finally found the courage to file for divorce. She wanted freedom. But for O.J., it wasn't a release. It was an insult. He began stalking her. He would appear suddenly at restaurants, at her gym, staring at her with bloodshot eyes. In May 1994, Nicole called a domestic violence shelter. She said something that would become a prophecy. "I'm scared he's going to kill me, and he's going to get away with it because he's O.J. Simpson." And 3 weeks after that call, she was dead. Back to the night of the murder. Police discovered a deadly gap in time in O.J. Simpson's schedule, from 9:36 p.m. to 10:54 p.m. Where was O.J. Simpson? According to police theory, this was the hour of death. It takes only 5 minutes to drive from Nicole's house to O.J.'s. He had enough time to commit the savage act, return home, dispose of the evidence, and pretend nothing happened. The truth was bolstered by a key witness, a limo driver named Alan Park. At 10:25 p.m., Alan arrived to pick O.J. up for the airport. He rang the bell. No answer. The house was pitch black, as if abandoned. Alan Park felt a chill. He sat in his car and watched. At 10:55 p.m., Alan saw a tall figure dressed in black, rushing across the driveway and entering the front door. Seconds later, the house lights flickered on. O.J. emerged, sweating profusely, lying, "I overslept." But Alan knew, 5 minutes earlier, that house was empty. O.J. boarded a flight to Chicago that very night. But there was one detail he couldn't hide. The middle finger on his left hand was deeply cut and bleeding. When police informed him of his ex-wife's death, O.J. smashed a glass in his hotel room out of grief, or so he claimed. But police found his blood at his Los Angeles home before he left for Chicago. A trail of blood matching his DNA led from his Bronco right into his bedroom. The lie was beginning to crack. The next noon, O.J. flew back to Los Angeles. Police were waiting, but TV cameras accidentally caught a strange moment. Robert Kardashian, O.J.'s best friend and lawyer, was seen carrying a bulging Louis Vuitton garment bag out of the house. The strange thing is, that bag was never seen again. Police forgot to check it. Many believed the murder weapon and bloody clothes were inside that luxury bag. Did Robert Kardashian destroy the evidence? It remained a mystery until his dying day, June 17, 1994. An arrest warrant was issued for O.J. Simpson on 2 counts of first-degree murder. His lawyers promised to surrender him at 11 a.m., but 11 a.m. came and went. No one showed up. Police raided the house. OJ was gone. Instead, Robert Kardashian stood before the international media, trembling as he read a suicide note OJ left behind. "Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life. Please remember the real OJ." America was in shock. Their idol was not only a killer, but now a fugitive. 6:45 p.m. A motorist spotted a white Ford Bronco on Interstate 405. Driving was Al Cowlings, OJ's best friend. OJ was in the back seat, holding a gun to his head. The strangest parade in history began. 20 police cars, 20 media helicopters swarming the sky, all following the Bronco at 35 miles per hour. The craziest part was the public reaction. People flooded the overpasses, holding signs, cheering, "Go OJ, we love you!" The fugitive instantly became the star of his own action movie. While helicopters swarmed overhead, a tense negotiation was happening over the phone between OJ and Detective Tom Lang. Lang begged, "OJ, don't do it. Think of your kids. Don't get blown away in front of everybody." OJ responded, sobbing like a lost child, "I'm the only one who deserves to get hurt. I just want to be with Nicole. I'm sorry. Just let me ride." This conversation revealed a completely broken O.J. Simpson. Was he acting to gain sympathy, or was he truly remorseful? 8 p.m. The Bronco pulled back into the Rockingham estate. The show was over. O.J. stepped out of the car, clutching family photos, and collapsed into the arms of the police. He whispered, "I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry." But inside that car, police found a loaded gun, a passport, a fake beard, and thousands of dollars in cash. Items belonging to someone planning to flee the country, not someone planning suicide. Whatever his intent, O.J. Simpson was no longer a legend. He was inmate number 41397, and the trial of the century was about to begin. January 1995. The trial of O.J. Simpson officially began, but this was no longer a trial. It was a circus. The hottest reality TV show on the planet. Thousands of reporters camped outside the courthouse. Free O.J. t-shirts sold like hotcakes. And inside, Judge Lance Ato made a historically controversial decision, allowing the entire trial to be televised. This decision turned justice into entertainment. Every gesture, every tear, every frown was scrutinized by 95 million viewers. In the red corner was the prosecution, led by Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden. Their strategy was simple: truth and science. They held a mountain of evidence. O.J.'s blood at the scene, the victim's blood in O.J.'s car, blood on the socks, hair on the cap. A DNA match probability of 1 in 170 million. For Marcia Clark, this was an open and shut case. She believed numbers don't lie. But she forgot one thing people do. In the blue corner was the Dream Team, the most expensive lawyers in America, led by the oratorical genius Johnny Cochran. They knew they couldn't win on scientific evidence, so they chose a different strategy: tell a better story. They didn't argue that O.J. didn't kill anyone. They asked, is the LAPD corrupt enough to frame a black hero? They shifted the focus from O.J. to the police department. From a murder case, they turned it into a crusade about racism. The height of manipulation occurred right before the jury visited O.J.'s home. Knowing the majority of the jury was black, the defense team secretly went to the Rockingham estate to redecorate. They took down all photos of O.J. with white friends. They hung up black art, placed African statues in prominent spots. They even put a Bible on the living room table. They turned a Playboy's mansion into the sanctuary of a model black man. And the jury bought the act. Let's talk about Mark Furman, the star detective of the case. the man who hopped the fence at O.J.'s estate and found the bloody glove. To the prosecution, Foreman was a hero, but to the defense, he was the Achilles heel. F. Lee Bailey, the seasoned wolf of O.J.'s legal team, approached the stand to cross-examine Foreman. He didn't ask about the murder. He asked about character. Bailey's question was simple but lethal. Detective Foreman, in the past 10 years, have you ever used the racial slur N-word to describe black people? Foreman, with a stone-cold face and steady gaze, answered clearly before the court, and God, no, never. Marcia Clark exhaled in relief. But she didn't know that Foreman had just stepped 1 foot into prison. It was a trap, and that trap was about to snap shut. Months later, a nuclear bomb detonated. A screenwriter named Laura Hart McKinney emerged. She was writing a script about police and had interviewed Mark Fuhrman over 9 years for material. And she had tapes, 13 hours of recordings. And on those tapes, Mark Fuhrman, the man who just swore in court he never used racial slurs, used the N-word a total of 41 times. But worse than the words were the stories he told. On the tapes, Foreman bragged about beating black suspects until they had internal bleeding. He talked about planting evidence to frame people he hated. He said, "If you find a blood mark, just rub your finger in it and wipe it on the suspect's shirt. Case closed." The courtroom went dead silent. Faith in justice collapsed. If the man who found the glove is a person who plants evidence and hates black people, is that glove worth anything? When Foreman was recalled to the stand, he was no longer a hero. He was a rat cornered in a trap. To avoid prosecution for perjury, Foreman did something unprecedented for a police witness. He pleaded the Fifth Amendment to every question. The lawyer asked, "Detective Foreman, did you plant or manufacture any evidence in this case?" Foreman replied, "I wish to assert my Fifth Amendment privilege." That answer was the death sentence for the prosecution. The case effectively ended right at that moment. After the Foreman disaster, the prosecution was desperate. They needed a jolt to regain the jury's trust. Christopher Darden, the assistant prosecutor, made a bold decision, going against all advice from his colleagues. Demand that O.J. Simpson stand up and try on the bloody gloves right in court. It was an all-in gamble. If they fit, O.J. was done for. If they didn't, the case was over. Darden believed in justice, but he underestimated the acting skills of a Hollywood actor. June 15, 1995, the moment the world held its breath. O.J. stepped to the center of the courtroom. By procedure, he had to wear thin latex gloves underneath to protect the evidence before putting on the leather gloves, and the show began. O.J. grimaced, flexed his fingers rigidly, struggling to pull the glove on. He raised his hands high for the jury to see, with a helpless look that seemed to say, "See, it's too tight." Did the gloves shrink due to blood and cold storage? Or was O.J. intentionally flexing his hands to deceive everyone? No one knows. We only know that, in the eyes of the 12 jurors, those gloves did not fit. Darden's gamble failed spectacularly. The courtroom erupted. Johnny Cochran, O.J.'s lead attorney, knew he had just won the chess match. During closing arguments, Cochran summarized that entire victory with a classic rhyming couplet, a slogan that went down in American legal history. "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." That phrase embedded itself in the jurors' minds. It was simple, catchy, and seemed irrefutable. With that phrase, O.J. Simpson's fate was sealed. After 9 long months with 120 witnesses and 45,000 pages of transcripts, the case was handed to the jury. The world expected them to take weeks, maybe months, to deliberate. But no. After just 4 hours, less time than 2 movies, the jury knocked. We have a verdict. This dizzying speed could only mean one of 2 things. Either the evidence was overwhelming for a conviction, or they just wanted to go home. 10:00 a.m., October 3rd, 1995. At that moment, America stopped. Stock trading volume dropped by 41%. Long-distance calls dropped by 58%. Even President Bill Clinton left the Oval Office to watch TV. 150 million people held their breath. Inside the courtroom, the air was thick. O.J. Simpson stood up, hands clasped, face tense. The victims' families held hands, praying. Court clerk Deirdre Robertson, her voice trembling, read the verdict aloud. On the charge of murder in the first degree, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty. Those 2 words were like a nuclear explosion in the courtroom. O.J. Simpson smiled, mouthing thank you to the jury. Johnny Cochran embraced him, but behind them was a heart-wrenching scream. Kim Goldman, the victim's sister, collapsed onto the table, wailing in agony. Ron's father stared at the freed killer with eyes full of pure hatred. Outside the courthouse, America's reaction was a chilling study in contrast. In black neighborhoods, people poured into the streets, celebrating as if they'd won the World Cup. To them, O.J.'s guilt didn't matter. What mattered was that the system finally failed to convict a black man. Conversely, white America was shocked, furious, and in tears. They couldn't believe a murderer with so much evidence against him could walk out of court a free man. The O.J. Simpson verdict didn't just free a suspect. It exposed the deepest racial divide in modern American history. O.J. Simpson won the criminal trial and escaped prison. But he couldn't escape civil justice. In 1997, Ron Goldman's family relentlessly pursued O.J. in civil court for wrongful death. In this court, the standard of proof was lower. Not beyond a reasonable doubt, but a preponderance of evidence. And this time, there was no Johnny Cochran, no glove tricks. The civil jury took only a few days to reach a verdict. O.J. Simpson was liable for the deaths of Nicole and Ron. He was ordered to pay $33.5 million in damages. A belated victory, but it confirmed one thing. In the eyes of civil law, he was a killer. Though free, O.J.'s subsequent life was a downward spiral. He went from an idol to a social pariah. Golf clubs rejected him. Friends turned their backs. He lived off his pension, always trying to hide assets to dodge the $33 million debt. The height of arrogance came in 2006, when he planned to publish a book titled, "If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer." In it, he hypothetically described how he murdered Nicole and Ron. Public outrage ensued. The court awarded the book rights to the Goldman family to satisfy the debt. They published it with the word "if" printed in tiny letters, making the title look like "I Did It, Confessions." But karma finally caught up with him. September 2007, Las Vegas. O.J. Simpson led a group of armed men into a hotel room to steal back his own sports memorabilia from collectors. This time, there was no dream team, no race card. He was caught and convicted of armed robbery and kidnapping. On October 3, 2008, exactly 13 years to the day he was acquitted of murder, a judge sentenced O.J. Simpson to 33 years in prison. Many believe the number 33 was no coincidence. It was the justice system's revenge for the $33 million debt he never paid to the victims' families. O.J. Simpson was granted parole in 2017 after serving 9 years. He lived his final years quietly in Las Vegas, occasionally posting football commentary on Twitter. On April 10, 2024, Orenthal James Simpson died of prostate cancer at the age of 76. He took the secret of that fateful night to his grave, but his legacy is a permanent scar on America. The case showed us how money and fame can bend justice. It revealed the deep chasms between races. And finally, it left behind the images of two innocent people, Nicole and Ron, who were forgotten amidst the loud media circus. Do you think true justice was served in this case? Share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching.